Good evening and thank you for joining us. At a time of strained China-U.S. relations, President Xi Jinping and U.S. President Donald Trump spoke by phone for the first time since Trump's second term began. The call touched on trade, diplomacy, and the Taiwan issue, with Xi calling on the U.S. to remove its negative measures and Trump expressing hopes for a deeper cooperation. The 90-minute phone call between President Xi Jinping and U.S. President Donald Trump unfolded Thursday evening. Xi said recalibrating the direction of their relations is like steering a large ship. It requires firm control of the helm and a clear course to steer clear of disturbances and disruptions. He emphasized that China honors its word and follows through on its commitments, and since the Geneva meeting, Beijing has taken the agreement seriously. Xi urged the U.S. to remove the negative measures slapped on China, calling for stronger exchanges between the two nations in diplomacy, trade, military, and law enforcement. Xi also stressed the U.S. must handle the Taiwan issue prudently to prevent a few Taiwan independence forces from dragging the two countries into confrontation. According to state news agency Xinhua, Trump expressed great respect for Xi and said U.S.-China ties are crucial. Trump was said to welcome strong growth in China's economy, that the two countries could accomplish great things through cooperation, and the U.S. will continue to uphold the One China policy. Xinhua reported that both leaders agreed the Geneva Consensus shall continue to be implemented, with a new round of talks to be staged soon. Xi reportedly invited Trump to visit China again, and Trump accepted. The previous phone call between the pair happened on January 17th, days before Trump took office. Trump also posted on social media saying that recent progress in addressing complex trade issues, including rare earths, should dispel doubts.
We had a very good talk, and we've straightened out any complexity. It's very complex stuff, and we straightened it out. I think we're in very good shape with China and the trade deal. We have a deal with China, as you know, but we were straightening out some of the points, having to do mostly with rare earth, magnets, and some other things. By the way, he invited me to China, and I invited him here. We've both accepted. So I'll be going there with the First Lady at a certain point, and he'll be coming here, hopefully, with the First Lady of China.
Analysts in Singapore said Beijing deliberately delayed the call, hoping to press Washington to recalibrate its China policy. They added that the invitations gave positive signals, predicting that both leaders might hold more in-depth talks on major issues during the eventual visits. Trump on Wednesday signed a proclamation citing national security concerns to temporarily bar incoming international freshmen at Harvard University from entering the U.S. He also instructed the State Department to consider revoking visas of current Harvard international students who fall under relevant criteria. In response, Harvard sued the federal government again on Thursday, claiming the move as unlawful and that Trump failed to substantiate any legitimate national security threat. A federal judge in Massachusetts later issued a temporary injunction restoring the right of international students to enter the country until the hearing on June 16th. In Trump's latest call with Xi Jinping, the U.S. president shifted the tone, saying Chinese students are welcome in the U.S.
Chinese students are coming. No problem. No problem.
Okay,
It's our honor to have them, frankly. Look, we want to have foreign students, but we want them to be checked. You know, in the case of
Some analysts believe the dialogue between President Xi Jinping and U.S. President Donald Trump highlighted the key role that rare earths play in negotiations between the two nations. This as some in the local business sector remain skeptical of any major breakthroughs from the phone call, adding that Washington is unlikely to implement any major changes to its trade policies. Timothy Lee tells us more.
Danny Lau, who has been involved with the aluminum business for over 3 decades, runs a factory in Dongguan that once saw 1/3 of its products exported to the U.S. But his usual business took a drastic turn when the Trump administration's trade policies resulted in his U.S.-bound metal exports being subject to 100% tariffs. He has yet to receive any orders from American clients since then. Despite the latest dialogue between Xi and Trump, Lau remains pessimistic about the two countries' business relationship in the near future.
The talk right now, just talking. There's no announcement regarding the tariff. We don't have much confidence on the final results, as much as we expect they will come out to be positive.
Earlier, the White House mentioned on numerous occasions its concerns about Chinese restrictions on rare earth exports. This as Trump noted that such concerns should be eased after his call with the Chinese leader. Some political scientists believe the recent discussions indicated that the issue of rare earths has become Beijing's trump card against America.
Rare earth materials are extremely useful for automobiles development, including the quality. So the U.S. Automobile industry has already been affected. China is not fully trusting the United States in the case of rare earth management. That is to say, if China fully opens up the rare earth export, then this will be in the zero-sum game tilted in favor of the U.S. So we can expect that China is going to relax the export of rare earth a little bit more, but not to the extent that will fully satisfy the United States.
Professor Sonny Low said President Xi Jinping and U.S. President Donald Trump will likely meet at the APEC summit in South Korea later this year for further dialogue. He added that the latter will likely lay out his plans for his upcoming trip to China in the near future. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
The government has granted 2 plots of land to the Urban Renewal Authority for residential use to help improve the URA's cash flow. The sites are located in Hung Hom and Cheung Kwan O and will be leased for a term of 50 years. The chief executive, acting in conjunction with the Executive Council, approved the granting of the 2 sites by private treaty at a symbolic price of 1,000 Hong Kong dollars. The Cheung Kwan O site is located in Area 137 with a net size area of around 9 hectares, with a proposed floor area of about 710,000 square meters. The residential land was originally reserved for public housing development. However, after considering changing priorities of the Housing Authority and the sufficient supply of land for public housing for the next 10 years, the site was instead granted to the URA. The Hung Hom site, located on Bailey Street, has a net area of around 7,600 square meters and a proposed floor area of about 68,000 square meters. It was originally reserved for school development. However, after further review, the Education Bureau determined that the land can be released for other uses. In recent years, the Urban Renewal Authority has launched multiple redevelopment projects, each at a cost exceeding $10 billion. A local think tank says to rein in rising costs, the body should review its buyback offer policy of referencing market prices of properties as new as 7 years old. Miriam Lynch reports.
Currently, 5 redevelopment projects under the Urban Renewal Authority have entered the property acquisition stage. They include the Lung Shing project in Kowloon City, which comes with an estimated budget topping $15 billion. Alongside other major works, these projects are projected to cost $60 billion in total, but the URA's cash reserves stand at just $18 billion. Ryan Yip, the vice president of Our Hong Kong Foundation, said private developers typically acquire properties based on market value and the building's age. However, owners tend to expect the URA to offer higher prices on par with buildings as new as 7 years old. Yip said the policy also slows down private redevelopment. Secretary for Development Bernadette Lin said the city's property market has been relatively weak lately, resulting in what she called a buy high, sell low problem for URA projects. That means properties are bought at high prices but resold at lower than expected values, or even go unsold, straining cash flow. If the market remains sluggish and tender bids fall short of expectations, the URA will need additional financial support for its redevelopment work. Terence Chong, the executive director of the Lau Chor Tak Institute of Global Economics and Finance at the Chinese University of Hong Kong, said the URA has ongoing projects and outstanding bank loans. He said if redevelopment is delayed, interest payments will rise. Chong added, should property prices continue to dip, the deficits will deepen further. The URA recorded a net loss of $3.9 billion last year, marking its second consecutive year in the red. Miriam Lynch, TVB News.
Officers from the National Security Department of the police arrested Joshua Wong, who is serving time in Stanley Prison, on suspicion of conspiring to collude with foreign or external forces. Wong was brought before the West Kowloon Magistracy this afternoon. Wong, formerly Secretary General of the now disbanded political group Demosisto, is serving a 4-year and 8-month sentence at Stanley Prison in connection with a subversion case involving pro-democracy activists. The 28-year-old now faces a new charge of conspiring with fugitive activist Nathan Law and others to collude with foreign forces. They allegedly conspired between July 1st and November 23, 2020, to request foreign countries or organizations to impose sanctions against the Hong Kong SAR government or the central government of China. The case has been adjourned until August 8th. Wong is not required to enter a plea at this stage, and he did not apply for bail. Wong is also under investigation for money laundering. Welcome back. U.S. President Donald Trump and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz bonded during a White House meeting on Thursday, with talks revolving around Ukraine, trade, and troops. Merz also reminded Trump that June 6 is the D-Day anniversary. Tracy Furness has more.
Trump and Merz met in the Oval Office, a site of recent showdowns between the U.S. president and other visiting dignitaries, including Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and South African President Cyril Ramaphosa. But not so this time. Merz and Trump seemingly having a warm rapport from the start. Both leaders want to see an end to the war between Russia and Ukraine. Trump believing more people have died in that war than we all think.
Millions of people have died, much more than people thought. And I've been saying that for a long time. The amount of death in that war is far greater than the news has been reporting, or than, frankly, that either side has been reporting. It's a very sad thing. And I can tell you, just speaking for the Chancellor, because we speak about it, he feels the same way. He wants to see it ended. Would you like to say something?
Absolutely. And I'm here, Mr. President, to talk with you later on how we could contribute to that goal. And we all are looking for measures and for instruments to bring this terrible war to an end. And may I remind you that we are having June 6th tomorrow. This is D-Day anniversary, when the Americans once ended a war in Europe.
That was not a pleasant day for you?
No, that was not a pleasant.
The D-Day invasion of Nazi-occupied France on June 6, 1944, saw the largest ever armada of ships, troops, planes and vehicles that breached Hitler's defences in Western Europe, which helped end the war. Trump said the US troops will stay in Germany and that he welcomed Berlin's commitment to boost its spending on defence. Then a surprise from Merz, who presented the US president with a gold-framed birth certificate of his grandfather, Friedrich Trump, who emigrated to America from Karlstadt, Germany. Trump called the Chancellor a very good man to deal with. Later, talking to reporters, Merz said they also talked about tariffs and trade. The German Chancellor said they have agreed that there will be close economic and trade policy cooperation between the White House and the German Chancellery, adding both leaders have already named the people who will hold these talks on their behalf. Merz ended by saying it turned out to be a good conversation with the American president. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
A U.S. medical technology company said they would continue to invest in Hong Kong despite trade and economic tensions between Washington and Beijing. This as U.S. President Donald Trump's plans to implement new rules restricting American enterprises from investing in China. Memo Sangai reports.
This medical technology company in Los Angeles applies artificial intelligence to transform X-rays into 3D imaging. Its purpose is to help trainee doctors practice dissection. In February, the company established its Asian headquarters in Hong Kong. The company's long-term goal is to promote the technology in China.
The thing I like about Hong Kong is that it's filled with smart people, right? They're educated, they're highly, open to other countries. You have one of the most advanced universities available in medical science.
U.S. President Donald Trump's administration is planning to adopt new rules to prevent American firms from investing in certain sectors in China, including AI.
If the company is smart enough, they'll go beyond, they think beyond this, what's happening today. The premise of a business is taking risk, right? Let's say if somebody comes to me and says, you know what, I'm not going to go to China because they are against us, right? I'll tell them, you know what, you're daydreaming.
Kenny Lau, supervisor of the San Francisco Chinese Chamber of Commerce, said the U.S. aims to slow down China's pace of development. He said the two countries must adopt a win-win mindset to achieve growth in development. Meanwhile, Margaret Wong, chairman of Hong Kong Business Association of Northern California, said the SAR administration should adopt a more active attitude to encourage U.S. enterprises and talent to develop in the city. Memos 9, TVB News.
Japanese company iSpace says its uncrewed moon lander likely crashed onto the lunar surface during its touchdown attempt today. This comes 2 years after an unsuccessful inaugural mission. The Tokyo-based company declared the mission a failure several hours after communication was lost. Flight controllers scrambled to gain contact but were met with only silence and said they were concluding the mission. Communication ceased less than 2 minutes before the spacecraft was due to land on the moon with a mini rover. Until then, the descent from the lunar orbit seemed to be going well. The police's Kowloon West Regional Headquarters launched 3-month drone patrol trials at several designated locations today. The patrols will take place across an area of 96,000 square meters. The drones will fly at a height of around 60 meters. They will only descend when broadcasting anti-crime announcements or when needed for on-the-ground investigations. And that's the news. Thank you for watching.